Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the April Dairy Products Report that USDA released yesterday afternoon, and I'm recording this on June 6th. All right, so the Dairy Products Report is our third report of the month. It always comes out almost at the next month, but it does kind of begin to tie everything together. So I want to start with recent cheese prices and are we exporting cheese, because that's really the big thing in the industry right now. So this is a graph that I pulled together, which is the global dairy trade in green, spot market in red, national dairy sales report in blue. And what this would suggest that for the last 4 months, we should have been exporting a fair amount of cheese because the prices were ripe for that. But the latest one for May, we just will not be exporting because the basis is too small. And if we look at the global dairy trade that was just the other day, cheddar was only up a little bit. Overall, our spot price for butter was $3.05. Global price was $3.05. We're not going to be exporting butter. Cheddar was $1.93, up that little bit. $1.85 is our spot price. Again, too tight to be exporting. Non-fat dry milk's $1.32 on the world market. $1.20, yes, that's at the point, 10, 12, 15 cents, it can get exported. Overall, this global dairy trade would have raised our prices about 14 cents when this put into our context. So this is how the month came together, and the cells in yellow are the ones that we got on the dairy products report. So cheese production, how much milk was used for cheese, butter production, and what percent of the fat did butter represent. Overall, the only big surprise was probably the butter production. It was higher than typical and higher than what StoneX had. The typical cheese production was right on target with where it came in. We'll look at a few of these graphs. This is the ratio of cheese to milk, assuming a 10-to-1 conversion from milk to cheese. It came in about 6.2 or 62% of the milk went into cheese. And this was slightly above the seasonal adjusted level, so we would say that more milk went into making cheese than normal, but very much pretty typical. And this has been growing over time. Daily cheese production overall was, more or less flat for the last 3 years, maybe up just a little bit. And if we look at our rolling disappearance, so it's like your rolling herd average, we look at the last 12 months because it's hard to look at a particular month. Our rolling disappearance is about 38.9 million pounds a day. April, we actually produced 39.5 million pounds a day. So we're producing more cheese than is disappearing. And this has been relatively flat. When you run all the numbers here, we've got about 37 and a half days of excess cheese in cold storage. And this would suggest that we need about 9.38 million cows to keep everything moving, and that's close to where we are at this point. If we look at the ratio of different cheeses, like last month, the Italian increased. Now overall, Italian is usually highest, but it's been declining. And so the ratio of Italian cheeses increased while the amount of American came down, the amount of cheddar came down. And so that's kind of the story this month is we made more Italian than American type cheeses. If we look at the American cheeses, this was actually considered an outlier by my statistical system, so that was very low. We look at cheddar cheese, it's way off of the seasonal adjusted trend line. And again, it's been more or less flat because last year was an outlier on that whole scenario, but cheddar production has not increased significantly over the last 4 years. However, the Italian type cheeses is right on trend line and above the seasonal adjusted level. Turn to whey production, it was actually up a little bit above the trend line. With cheese production being relatively strong, it's not surprising we had more whey, and this is also what's been suppressing the whey price. We're between 40 and 44 cents on the spot market right now. We look at the spot cheese price over time, so it has come down, Bird flu actually was first diagnosed around March 25th. Around April 5th, this thing took off. I was talking about a 6-week pattern, and that was just about 6 weeks to where it turned back down on the 17th. And right now we're in a little bit of a downward trend. We've got the latest National Dairy Sales Report at $1.87. That's exactly kind of where we were back here in this last run-up. And so the real question is the shortage of fresh cheese, which the spot market is evaluating. Is it due to a shortage of milk or the fact that we made more Italian cheeses and made the cheddar cheeses a bit short? All right, let's turn to butter. The amount of butter that makes up total fat was actually up a little bit. That's a little bit higher than normal, so it means that we made more butter given the amount of fat than we normally would have. And we got to remember that fat percentages are continuing to go up. This is actually kind of considered an outlier because it was up so much, but the percent fat just continues to come up at 1.26% per year. And butter production overall was up above the seasonal adjusted level and above the trend line. If we look at butter relative to non-fat dry milk, when we have high numbers up here, that says that we're getting butter from fat other than a butter powder plant. This kind of came back down to normal, but is a little bit above the trend line. So butter production has increased, relative to non-fat dry milk this month, but it's still above the trend line. And we look at the value of butter relative to non-fat dry milk. Clear up here, we had some really high butter prices. That came down. Right now, we're clustering about 3/4 of the way up as to what we had last year. I still say I think butter prices are going to be about under $3. Now, will it be $2.75 or not, we'll see. But I think that $3 number is going to be kind of the resistance. Some of the other things that get made, ice cream is seasonally, right where we expected it to be, maybe a little bit above normal. This time of year we make more ice cream than other times. I declared yogurt dead last month, and it came out and surprised us, so it came up significantly, way over trend line. All right, so did get the dairy products reports yesterday. That's about it for this week. Slaughter numbers and upper Midwest milk prices. We're not going to really start getting a lot of information, until we get the statistical uniform prices, and then we're not going to get the milk production report until the 27th. All right, that's it for me.